Today, following on from looking at Quality First Teaching last week, I'm going to look at the Assess, Plan, Do, Review cycle, which is part of, again, from the Code of Practice. It's the way that we deliver the support for special educational needs. So the first bit, as it says on the packet, is to assess. So assessment isn't just simply a matter of doing a few tests. There's a lot more to it. So you look at if there are any reports from outside agencies, so EdPsych reports, speech and language therapist reports, CAMS reports, whatever they happen to be. CAMS is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. So you take the different reports and get their views. You find out what the teachers think. The teachers are the ones who are working day in, day out with the child. So you want to get the teachers' views as well as just looking at data. You do look at the data. You look at data from whole school assessments, class assessments, individual assessments. Yes, you need the data, but the data might not be telling the whole story. Okay, so you need to speak to the teacher and find out what's the full story of what's going on. You take a look at the pupil's work. So looking at pupil's work can tell you so much. If you've got, for example, spelling is a good example. It could be that in spelling tests this child is scoring diabolically low. It's like, oh my gosh, they just never get anything right. If you look at the books, it could be that there are certain patterns. It could be a hearing issue. It could be that sounds like g and k, which are actually the same sound, but one is voiced and one isn't. So k, no voice, g. It comes. You do exactly the same thing with your tongue, your mouth, everything else. They're the same sound, but one is not voiced. So it could be it's a hearing problem. You could think it's a spelling. It could be hearing. Same as p and b. Not voiced, voiced. Okay, p is just p, putting your lips together and the air comes through. B, you add your voice. That's the only difference. Okay, so with p and b, we could very easily think, oh, there's a reversal issue. This is dyslexia because of P's and B's. They're the same thing, but the other way around. But it might actually be a hearing issue. So looking at the books tells us, looking at the pupil's work tells us so much more. Are the spelling errors incorrect but phonetically correct? If the phonics are right, it could be that they're further on, they've been making progress, or they could be bizarre. So you need to look at the work. The other thing is you need to include the pupil and the parent. Quite often what we see in school is only part of the picture. So you need to think about, oh, what does the parent contribute to this? The parent voice, it was highlighted a while back in something called the Lamb Inquiry, and that was really highlighting the importance of what a parent can contribute to the conversation. The parent knows their child, but also the pupil. You know, if you're assessing them, they might throw something up that you just weren't thinking of. So for the assessment part, you want to look at any reports from any outside agencies who are supporting, the teachers, the data, the pupil's work. Listen to the pupil, listen to the parent, discuss it with them, and then you find out what is it that needs to be done. A label in itself won't be enough. Oh, this child is dyslexic, they need a spelling intervention. They might need a reading intervention. So we need to think specifically what is it that child needs. It could be that they're dyslexic, but the biggest issue in terms of accessing the curriculum is to do with their working memory or executive functioning. They just can't organise themselves to get on with the work. So you need to find the specific aspect through this assessment, the specific aspect that you want to focus on for the intervention or for the support. So the next step is to plan it. Again, we involve parents and pupils because they are going to be able to add stuff to it, but also it could be that the planned intervention will include something that the parent needs to do. It could be something which involves things happening at school and then some form of reinforcement at home. So the parent needs to be there. Is it going to be a quality quality first teaching intervention where you're giving strategies to the teacher and seeing how that works in class, or is it going to be an intervention one-on-one? Is it going to be part of a group intervention? How is this going to be managed? You need to plan for that. For some children, working as part of a group does them more good than working on their own. For others, they might need that really focused one-on-one. If you're going to do that, part of the planning is who's going to deliver it. Is it the teacher, quality first teaching? Is it a TA, teacher assistant, a learning support assistant? Is it somebody maybe from speech and language coming in? You know, who's actually going to deliver the intervention and who's going to be involved in it? Are there other pupils coming in on it? What obviously needs to be delivered, specifically what are you going to deliver? But where can be quite important. And there's not always much choice depending on the school itself, the building and the facilities, but where an intervention is delivered can have a huge impact on the actual effectiveness of the intervention. It could be that you've chosen a room and yet when you get into that room the lighting is really poor, or it's too cold, or there's too many distractions. It's a room that's fabulous to be in, but there's this and this and this, and you can't focus on the work. So choosing the right place matters, and that again is important for including, including the pupil, because you might think this is the perfect setting and the pupil might not agree. So it could be a room that's been associated with something negative. So it needs to be, the where does matter, but also the when. Are they going to miss any lessons? Are they going out of class time? If so, what? You know, what are they going to miss? Are they going to do it during assembly? But then what if that was an assembly when there were going to be achievements given out, you know, sort of like they could have won a prize or something. So you need to be very mindful of the when. Assemblies are a great time for taking pupils out for intervention because they're not missing key classroom learning time, but it's also quite often a time when there's praise given for things that are the non-academic, the extra things, something that that child might be hoping to get some reward for or some recognition for. So thinking carefully about when it's delivered. So then actually delivering it. So depending on depending on what's being delivered, it could be that it's, as I say, quality first teaching. So you actually need to get on and do it. You need to think about how long it's going to last. Usually we recommend about 6 weeks, and you'll do a baseline assessment at the start of that. So whatever it is, if it's an emotional aspect, you'd want some sort of questionnaire, some sort of discussion to see where they're at, and then an exit where they're at by the end of the intervention. It could be that it's spelling, it's reading, again, some form of baseline assessment, reassessing at the end of 6 weeks. Okay, so part of the delivery, is to actually, we've done all the in planning it, we've worked out where you're at, but where are you specifically in accordance to this intervention? So that needs to be done as part of the do. There needs to be a breakdown of what you're doing. There needs to be recording as you go along of how the child has responded, not just in terms of understanding, but also emotionally, how there might be things to do with them becoming more relaxed into it. You may take, as you're delivering it, think about, take notes of anything you hear from teachers. They may be saying, oh, by the way, since you did so and so, I've noticed this. So thinking about all of that while you're delivering it. So it's not just, pardon me, actually delivering a programme, an intervention, or putting strategies in place. It's continually getting that feedback and keeping the notes. And then you review it. So you've got assess, plan, do, review. If you don't review the intervention, we don't know how successful it's been. We don't know whether it was worth doing, whether follow-up intervention is needed. That's sorted, now let's move on to this angle, this aspect. It could be that, we've started to make progress. If we change this, so reviewing it, what worked well, what didn't, could we adapt it and continue it? Do we not need to continue it? If we're not continuing it, ensuring that we are at least monitoring the child once they go back, because it could be that, yep, sorted, fine, end of the period, they're great, they go back into class and it all goes back again. We don't know. So we do need to keep an eye after an intervention. That part of that review is to have that continual monitoring. And you'll see it will go back straight away. It's a cycle. It's not linear, it's circular. So you go back to assess, plan, do, review. So after an intervention, you've reviewed it, you would do some reassessments maybe the beginning of the next term and see how things are going then. And then you might start the process all over again. Part of that review will again include the pupil and the parent. Okay, you'd want to know how they think it's gone. We may be thinking, oh, that's gone brilliantly, that was amazing, that's wonderful. And they may be unhappy about some aspect of it. Or they may say, well, it's gone okay in this way, but actually what's happened is it's thrown up this. It could be that behaviour at home has changed following it, positively or even negatively. We don't know. So those whole assess, plan, do, review, all aspects need to be in place. Do we need to carry on? Do we need a new approach? Can we leave it for a while and just monitor it? Do we need more of the same? Is it going well but 6 weeks wasn't enough? So that whole circular thing, assess, plan, do, review, coming out of the code of practice, is a really helpful way forward for supporting our children with special educational needs. Thank you.